Hey, Dan Beagleman here. In this video, I'll discuss basic rhythm groupings. Obviously, these can be applied to single notes or chords or scales or whatever, but the point is having a good understanding of the different rhythm groupings will help you in performing with other musicians and really help to get your timing spot on. Okay, on to basic rhythm groupings part 1. When I talk about rhythm groupings, I'm basically talking about how long a note lasts. Now, there are different types of notes. There are whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, 16ths, 32nds, 64ths, things like that. But it's basically fractions. So if you can understand basic fractions, you should have no problem understanding how these things work. A whole note means if I hit it on beat 1 and I count to 4, well, I say 1 when I hit the note and let it go for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a whole note. A half note I would hit on beat 1 and beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A quarter note would be hit on each beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. An eighth note would be hit on the downbeat, the numbers, and on the upbeats. In other words, if you're tapping your foot, let's say to keep time in music, or if you're tapping your hand, on your lap, you would go down for the number, or 1, 1, and then it's got to come up before it goes down again. That would be the and. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and if I played eighth notes in that same regard, it would follow that 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay? And normally, you would want your pick to follow that direction. In other words, if you're hitting a note on a downbeat, on a number, like 1, 2, 3, or 4, pick down, because that's kind of the direction that your foot would go if you're tapping your foot, or if you're tapping your hand on your knee or something. And again, as I said, before it can go down again, it's got to come up. So that's referred to as an upbeat. So a downbeat, pick down, an upbeat, pick up. So if I'm playing whole notes, half notes, or quarter notes, all of those would be picked down because they're all on the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. The ands would be picked up, like that. So if I'm playing eighth notes, I'm alternating my picking down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 1, which corresponds to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. There are times when you would want to change that depending on passages. You might be playing something that's difficult with string jumping, and it would be easier to change up. But generally, you want to pick down on the downbeats, pick up on the upbeats, because it also helps you lock in your time. Okay, you'll feel it. In other words, when you pick down, you'll feel that that's a beat, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And when you pick up, you're going to feel that's an upbeat. Now I'll show you whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes would be 4 in a beat. When we count 16th notes, sometimes we say 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a. Like with the eighth notes, you go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 16th notes, we say 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. I guess somebody came up with that because it's easy to say it. 1 E and a. And if I'm playing 4 16th notes in a beat, I'm going to be going down, up, 2 times. 1 E and a. 2. And the strong beat would be the first of each group of 4. 16th notes would be 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, okay? And then eighth note triplets. A triplet is when you subdivide a beat by 3 even parts, okay? So if I play a triplet, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, dot, 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 like that. And when I play eighth note triplets, I'm not going to alternate every single note. I'm going to go down, up, down for beat 1, and then down, up, down for beat 2, down, up, down for 3, down, up, down for 4. So each group of 3, I'm going to pick down for the first note, up for the second, and down for the third. And because I'm starting that again with a down, I'll be picking down twice in a row. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Now you could alternate, go down, up, down, up, down, up. That's alternating every single note. But by starting each group of 3 with a downbeat, it helps to reinforce that you know where the beat actually is. So down, up, down, down, up, down. Okay? And now I'll play all the beats that I just discussed. Whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, and eighth note triplets. And I'll play them with a metronome at 92 BPM so you can get a sense of where this locks in with the metronome. 1, 2. And now I'll do it again with counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when you're performing a song or an exercise or whatever, you're not constantly playing. Sometimes you stop, for a little pause or whatever, and there are rests. Rest meaning when you're resting, you're not playing. And there are rests that accompany each of the note values. In other words, there's a whole note rest, a half note rest, a quarter note rest, an eighth note rest, 16th note rest symbol, things like that. Now some basic eighth note rhythm groupings. And what I mean by that is if you played, again, all eighth notes, in other words, in 4/4 time, if you played all the eighth notes, you'd be playing 8 of them. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? Okay, and you would be picking down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now here are some exercises where I'm going to leave out an eighth note after each beat. In other words, I'm going to leave out an eighth note after beat 1, then I'll leave out an eighth note after beat 2, I'll leave out an eighth note after beat 3, and then I'll leave out an eighth note after beat 4. So here's an eighth note pattern leaving out the eighth note after beat 1. Here's leaving out the eighth note after beat 2. Here's leaving out the eighth note after beat 3. Here's leaving out the eighth note after beat 4. Right? Pretty simple to follow that. Now the interesting thing about that is when applied to rhythms, let's say you're playing a song and you're playing rhythm, your right hand, as I said earlier, these rhythm groups apply to single notes, they also apply to chords. So a rhythm pattern for a chord, let's say you're playing C to A minor, okay? If I played all eighth notes, it would sound like this. Right? If I left out the first eighth note, it would be. If I left out the second eighth note, if I left out the third eighth note, and if I left out the fourth eighth note. So you can see by just leaving out one of the eighth notes, you get a whole different rhythm feel. And a lot of pop music sort of is identified by the rhythm structure or the rhythm pulse that the guitar is playing when it's strumming the chords. And as I said, by playing or not playing, in other words, by hitting a chord or resting in a certain spot, could change up everything. So a very simple thing could make a big difference in the feel or, the pulse of a song. And what I just showed you by leaving out an eighth note after each of the successive beats, you get a different rhythm pulse. Here's what it would sound like if you rested on different beats. And when I say rested, in other words, when I left the eighth notes out, you could still hear them ringing, but if I actually use a rest where I'm going to have silence, you get a different inflection. So here's resting on beat 1 and then hitting the other eighth notes. So if I rest on beat 1 of the 8 eighth notes, the first 2, that would be 1 and, I'm not going to have anything going on. It would be silent, and I'm going to play 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it would be rest, 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if I'll count this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 1, 1. If I rested on beat 2, I would play 2 eighth notes, then the next 2 eighth notes, which would be 2 and silent, and then I would play 3 and 4 and. Sound like this. 2. Right? That was resting on beat 2. If I rest on beat 3, I'll play 1 and 2 and, won't play 3 and, I'll be silent there, and then play 4 and. And if I now rest on beat 4, I'll play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and will be silent. And then you can make different combinations. And again, as I said earlier, just by changing up a little bit, by leaving out an eighth note or resting on a quarter note somewhere, changes the whole pulse of a song. And you could take the same song, and by playing a different rhythm grouping, you can get an entirely different feel or a different pulse on the same song. Now back to 16th notes. So as I said, with 16th notes, if I hit 4 16th notes in each beat, and I'm going to alternate my picking, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and my strong beat is the first of each 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. And as I previously showed you, leaving out some of the eighth notes, like after beat 1 or 2, 3, or 4, I can do the same thing with 16th notes. So here's some patterns with 16th notes, and I'll leave out different 16th notes in each of the beats to get a different pulse or a different inflection. Again, if I played all 4 16th notes in a beat, I would have this. And my pick, again, as I said, would alternate down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. If I played the first 3 16th notes and didn't play the 4th 16th note, it would be the same as playing 2 16th notes and an eighth note. So if I play the first, second, and third 16th note only, in other words, I'm not playing that last upstroke, and instead of 1 E and da, I'm just going 1 E and 1 E and. It is the same as playing 2 16ths and an eighth note, okay, in beat 1. So now this is, instead of playing 4 16th notes in the beat, I'm going to play 3. I'll be leaving out the 4th 16th note on each beat, and this is what this is going to feel like. If I leave out the second 16th note, it would be like playing an eighth note and then 2 16th notes to follow. That'll sound like this. If I don't play the third 16th note, I'll play the first one, the second one, and the second one will be tied to the third one, and then I'll hit the fourth one. And for picking, remember with the 16th notes, when I said about alternating, going down, up, I'll hit down for the first, up for the second. The third one would be hit down, but since I'm letting it ring, the fourth one is going to be up, so I'm going to actually play 2 upstrokes in a row. I'm going to go down, up, up. So slowly, that's what that would sound like. I'm hitting the first, second, and fourth 16th note in the group. And if I didn't play the first 16th note, it would be a rest. So if I didn't play the first downstroke, I would then come back in with an upstroke, a downstroke, and an upstroke. So it would be like, I'm gonna, if I move my pick down but not hit the string, 1, and then up, down, up. And a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'll play these 16th note groups. I'll leave out the 4th 16th note, the 2nd 16th note, the 3rd 16th note, and the 1st 16th note. Metronome at 92. Okay, leaving out the 4th 16th note. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is leaving out the 2nd 16th note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Leaving out the 3rd 16th note. 1, 2, 3, 4. And leaving out the 1st 16th note. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'll play quarter notes, 8th notes, 16th notes, and 8th note triplets with the metronome at 92. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'll reverse that, and I'll play 8th note triplets, 16th notes, 8th notes, and quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as I said, with all of these different rhythm groupings, just by applying them to a chord pattern, you can get a whole different vibe on a tune. And now if I just play around with some rhythm groupings, I'll just play 2 chords, E to D in this voicing here. And by playing downbeats, by not playing on the downbeats, could really change up the whole thing. Okay, just noodling around between E and D, and just my right hand, I'm just like kind of freelancing, just playing like different rhythm groupings, and makes things a lot more interesting. But one more thing I want to show you in this video is what's referred to as swing 8th notes, okay, or shuffle 8th notes, sometimes referred to. Remember, 8th notes, very, very even. You count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Right, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and my pick is going in that direction, down on the numbers, up on the ands, in between the beats. Swing or shuffle 8th notes have a bounce feel to it, a shuffle feel. Right? I'm sure you've heard things like that, And what it is actually, is in a sense, it's like if I was playing the 8th note triplets, where I'm playing 3 in each group. Right? By not hitting the middle one, so I'm hitting the 1st and 3rd note of the 8th note triplet instead of going 1. I'm leaving out that middle one and going. And you get shuffle 8th notes or bounce 8th notes, and for like blues shuffles, I'm sure you, for example, let's say Roadhouse Blues, The Doors. If I play that as straight 8th notes, it would sound like this. So by changing that 8th note to a swing 8th note, you have. Right, so straight 8th notes, swing 8th notes. And on the sheet that you just saw above the clef, that's a symbol for telling the player that you want this to be played as swing eighth notes and not straight eighth notes. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel, as it helps this channel to grow. And please leave any questions or comments in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. I'm Dan Beagleman, and that's Basic Rhythm Groupings Part 1. Have a nice day.